Good morning. So I am beginning a new piece today. I actually started it a couple of days ago. It's from a picture I found on the internet, and I wanted to work with some different skin tones than I'm used to, and I thought this was such a cool piece. I hope you can see this from my iPad. I don't really know. So she has just this lovely hair, and the light that this picture was taken in is wonderful because I see blues and purples and black and all these shades in her hair. And so it's going to be fun to play with capturing a little bit of that texture. But this is not going to be a perfectly exact portrait per se. It's going to be an interpretation and inspiration from this with a mixed media. So this is the piece I recently did from an antique photo. And so this is kind of the feel that I'm going for, lots of inclusions and collage material all put into one. So let me begin by showing you. Let me move her off here. So this is what I began with, my my sketch, and I used a new, I've just got this, we've all used the Stabilo All, perhaps you have. This Stabilo All pencil will mark on paper, glass, plastic, metal. It'll go over, you know, oil-based, water-based, whatever products. And the nice thing is you can sketch with it, and then you can add water to it, and it sort of diffuses it, and it becomes almost like watercolor at that point. And so I did my sketch, and I used this new brown. I had the black, but I ordered the brown, and I love it. And I wanted to try it on her just to set in some of my tones in the piece where my darker areas were going to be. It's not going to look like this in the end. This is going to morph many, many times. But so what I did today is I laid out, just pulled out some collage papers. Now, I don't know what I'm going to use on this, so your guess is as good as mine. I love tissues because they layer over other things and you can still see prints through them. So I have several tissues here, even sewing pattern. I love using sewing patterns. Some of these have hard edges. A lot of times when I collage with tissue paper, I don't worry so much. With regular papers, I will usually tear because the torn edges seem to meld in a little easier. I don't like that real hard edge on my pages. But let me show you first the tissues that I've got that are all different patterns and colors. And there's going to be paint over a lot of this. Some of it I might even obliterate altogether. I never know till I get into it because I just work intuitively, which means whatever I think is going to work in that moment, I put it down. And I don't overthink. That is the enemy of me. I have some textured things. This has like a little texture to it. It's got some paint on it. Doesn't matter. It's going to have more paint on it. I'm just using it for the texture. And then I love words and music notes in the background. Those add a texture with layered paint over. These I don't know if I'll use, but I like the pattern. I thought, well, that might be kind of cool to stick around her hair. I'm not making a perfect portrait out of these. I'm just laying them down and then I'll be painting over. Some I chose for the colors because remember I said she had a lot of black and blue and purples in her hair, and I thought, oh, this beautiful picture of Paris might go well in there. So I pulled that out. A little piece of a mat that has purple for the same reason. These have some blues. I don't know that I will use these. This I like is some hand printed papers that I did with my jelly plate. And it has a little bit of iridescence to it, but some blacks, purples, and blues. I thought, again, the colors. I don't know if I'll use words. I'm not really sure. These were already cut out and pulled off with some, I don't know, gift wrap, clocks on it. Another piece is texture. I could use and leave as is, but I'll probably be painting over it. Again, colors and the texture might be nice in the hair. This is one I really don't know about, but I loved the black and the blues and the texture that it gives off. So I might take pieces of this butterfly and put it in her hair. You're just gonna have to wait and see. All right, so I'm gonna speed up the video so you can kind of see the process but not get bogged down in my decision making about all of this stuff. Sometimes I use my matte medium to put down papers, but with these little bit thicker papers, I'm using my Yoo-Hoo glue stick because I know it's a really good glue stick. And then when I go back over everything at the end, then I will use the matte gel medium over top of all this, because it also takes down any of the shine that's on some of these papers that I might be using. These came from a calendar, so they have a little bit of shine that I don't necessarily want in my piece. Trying to get rid of that smooth cut edge. I don't want that. This will dry, but if it runs off, I'm letting it run off on the places that I'm going to. Whoops, I want to go the other way. Old gift cards, credit cards, they're great for smoothing down your pieces and getting them to adhere really well. I'm less sure of this piece because it was actually done on some like vellum type paper from a gel printing that I did. And sometimes they can buckle, but you know, sometimes buckling actually adds texture and looks pretty good in a collage. But looks like it needs more glue. I like this Yoo-Hoo glue stick because it goes down blue and dries clear, so I can kind of see where I am. Are straight edges on a piece and I want to leave the straight edge, I usually go ahead and just line it up with the edge of my paper and let it work as the edge, and that way I don't have to do anything. Now I'm going to bring in the tissue papers and this little clock. So I think I'm just going to put it right on her. I could put it on her face, I might put it on her chest, because sometimes I like to have some of these things I think I am going to put it on her face. Be daring. So if you're wondering my inspiration for doing this, I'm just working on getting the feel, and again I might go over it with paint, all of it, who knows, the feel of the hair that comes around the front of her face. On this side of her face over here, it's behind, so the entire curve of her face shows, but this is a softened edge here where the hair is coming over it. So that's the reason for these little bits that I'm throwing down here. And I think I might follow the curve of her face over there a couple of places with some dark papers. I love this black handwritten paper, it's kind of cool. And I'm going to be going over that with paint. Things like this I'll leave to the end. Put those over there. Now I want to incorporate music. I always love to incorporate some music. And then also I have this wonderful little book piece, and it has the word smolder, which I thought was wonderful for this. I think I'm going to put it right there. See if I can keep some of that showing. She is a beautiful woman. See if I can do justice to her smolder. can kind of see when you don't have things stuck down, so make sure you go back and stick them really well. Alright, then I have a couple pieces that are for texture. I'm going to put this on her bosom area. Not a word you hear too much these days. Bosom. Yeah, I just want to get some of this here. I'm not going to press that down with my credit card. I want to make sure it's down and make sure the edges are stuck. But if I press too hard, it might undo some of these raised areas. So keep that in mind when you're doing something like that for texture. I love these little tissues that have some gold metallic to them. Sometimes that still comes out around the paint. So I'm going to stick these down. I'll put this one up here in this corner. And then I love this. When I run out of it, I'm going to be sad. And I think this came in some something I ordered or bought once. It was kind of fancy. I don't know. It's got kind of roses, and it's done on with some like gold metallic, but not strong. It's very subtle. So, in tissue, I'll just throw it on here, and if it gets little wrinkles in it, I like it. I don't try to smooth it perfectly because I like the feel of it. I might use just a little bit of this in her hair. I don't have to cover every inch because I'm going to be using paint to help with some of that. And then maybe I might just put this all down in here. Whoops. You have to be very careful with tissue. Start from the center and run out with your glue stick. And it's sticking to my fingers and tearing. That's okay. I really don't mind. Let's see. You can even go ahead and pull it apart if you want. I'm going to just leave this together. Okay, so I found a couple other things I wanted to add before I begin painting. I went ahead and used the other piece of the Paris over here to balance some of that color. I know this looks really freaky right now, but just as you saw in the other one, a lot of this is going to get, a lot of this is going to get pushed back with paint. So it's very, you know, dark, light, dark, light. It looks crazy right now, but it's going to get blended into the entire painting. So don't get scared when it gets like this. All right, the best things are on the other side of scary. At least that's what I'm going to keep telling myself. I've decided not to use that tag just because of the thickness of it. I knew it was going to stand out no matter what I did, and I don't like that hard edge it would have caused. So I used my pattern piece that I really wanted to use down here to add some texture to where her dress is going to come across. And this little piece that I loved for the texture, I only had one sheet of this, and I've been using little bits of it, and I'm about to be done with it. I got to find some more. But I love that for the top of her shoulder. And that's going to be more for texture. It's going to be painted over. So let's get started with the paint. So before I paint, the first thing I think I'm going to do with this, because I have a lot of like magazine type papers and from calendars, and there's some You maybe can see it if I do this. You can see there's some gloss. I need to get all that tamped down and back. And I like the grit, clear gesso. When I first got this, I didn't understand it because I thought, oh, it's clear. It's going to look like the white gesso, but clear. No, it's got this grit to it. And first I thought, ooh, but now I love it because when you have that little bit of grit, it's easy to get to do some dry brushing techniques with acrylic, and that's where you have very little paint on your brush. And so if I want to get this a fuzzy look, like if it's an animal for fur or for the outside of a hair, or especially for her hair, you know, I might want to do some of that around the edges. And the grittiness of this works. It grabs pencil well. Now, it won't make perfectly smooth lines. So if you like perfectly smooth lines using colored pencil, you might not like it. But I'll use a mixture of regular colored pencils and then watercolor pencils. And so when I do the watercolor pencils, I'm using water to smooth out those lines anyway. So I'm going to lay a good layer of this all over, and then I'm going to let this dry before I go to the next step. Now I'll just go outside and have some coffee. So usually on Sunday mornings, I get up very early and I teach. I teach English to children in China on a ESL platform, English as a second language platform. And I love it, but they have a holiday this weekend. And so today I had a holiday. I did not teach this morning. So I actually got to sleep in and it felt absolutely wonderful. So I knew I had a day of art ahead of me that I really wanted to get in here and play with. A little bit of this goes a long way. I may even put too much on here. I'll have to see. Make sure you get off anything that's on here, little bits of paper. This will seal everything. It's matte, so it will matte down the shininess of any magazine pages I have on here or calendar pages that have that sheen that I do not want. And it kind of makes everything even. Because, you know, things will react differently on tissue than they will on other types of papers. They'll act differently on slick papers and very porous papers. So this kind of evens the playing field. And I'm taking it all the way down. When this hits your tissue paper, you might see a little bit of buckling again, like you see in here. That's fine. It's going to calm down, and you can use your hand to press it down even more. But actually, I kind of like that. But if you don't, then use your finger and press it down, and you'll still have some of those creases, but they'll be flatter. All right. So I want to make sure it's smooth across her face, definitely. The other areas I'm not as picky about. I'll kind of go over it a little bit, but I don't want thick streams of this stuff from my paintbrush. So let me go over her face again. All right, so I love it, and it just kind of makes the whole thing lay flat. And I think I've covered about everything. I'm going to go just very lightly over her face in the same direction here. Smooth it out. All right, I can smooth down any of these tissues that buckled with that addition, but they look pretty good to me. All right, great. Let's let this dry and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back at my table. My clear gesso has dried. It's given a really good tooth. Feels like a very fine grit sandpaper, honestly. That's what that feels like. And so when I got back, I noticed this piece sitting off to the side. It was part of a calendar page. And I don't know, I was drawn to it. And so I really think I'm going to add this now, prolonging my painting start. But I'm laying it down at the corner, and I'm going ahead and folding it where it's going to go on the edge of the page, so I can cut along those lines. And I can get an idea. I love adding animals, things like this. And I really like the colors on this, because she was wearing a dress that had some vivid yellows and reds, and This actually has a little bit of both that I can play off of, and I can fit it right into the corner and then play around on that line of her dress, which comes, you know, across here. So I can either have it go up over, or I could have it follow that line exactly. But when I do that, it covers over this piece. I seldom place these things as if they're going to be super important. They inform the feel of the piece. Sometimes the color is something that I really like, but the fact that it's going to go over her dress line that comes across here, I don't think that bothers me at all. So I think I'm going to go ahead and glue this little bird down, put just a little bit of clear gesso over him so I can start with my painting. And I can get started with the other areas of my painting that I want to start with even while this is drying, because this gesso dries pretty fast actually. I just went outside and listened to some jazz on my porch and sipped some coffee. It's not like I really needed that long for all this to dry. Okay, so what had happened there is I did not have a really good dried piece before I put that gesso on. And so when I put the gesso on, it pulled the image up from underneath. Just using the dryer a little bit on the glue stick that I had put on the back was not going to be enough. So I brought out my matte medium, and it's just a matte medium. If you haven't worked with it before, it can be used as a binder, as an adhesive. It can also be used on top to, like I said, tone down. It's matte. You can get it in different types, matte or glossy, whatever. I like matte. And it seals things so that you can do even more work on top of it. But yeah, it was just a little bit better adhesive than the glue stick I was using. You noticed it tore when I pulled it up to do that. You can't tell now, and it's not going to be finished like this anyway. I'm going to have paint stuff over it, so don't worry when things like that happen. Just go with it. And so let me trim off where my paper goes over. I think this. So now I really am ready for some paint. So I've got Golden's paints in different types. I've got some fluid acrylics. I also have some watercolor. Let's see, what are these? These are Neocolors. Some are Jane Davenport watercolor crayons, aquarelles, the Neocolor 2s. So they're basically crayons that are watercolor. I can play with some color, get some color down there, different places, move it around with water. And I have golden fluid acrylics over here, a bunch of those that I'm going to pull out for this. And then these are some, what are these? I've had these for a while. They're a little thicker acrylic. Do they call them something specific? Open acrylics? I don't know. But they're thicker, so I'll open that. And I like these colors for this girl. Because she seems like she's got some really pretty, like this is what is this, raw sienna? It's a pretty like caramel look. And I think these would be pretty to put in this. This is a Naples yellow hue. Okay, then I have quinacridone gold. I love this color. I use it a lot. I like it for everything from shadows to just bringing a kind of a really pretty, I don't know, warm brown tone into something. But it acts like a glaze, honestly, when I use it. But I will bring that into it. I will probably bring in a little bit deeper chocolate kind of acrylic to some areas. I have some iridescent bronze. I love this. I don't know if you can see this sheen. It kind of gives you the color across here. But it's not a garish gold. It's not a brown bronze. It's kind of in between. I love this color. I have raw umber. I have Titan buff, again in the little bit thicker acrylic. I'm going to play with those, see if I like those today. And then I have a host of other colors that I might bring in here, especially around the hair. Some cobalt blue or some violet that I will work in probably towards the end with her hair. So I'm just going to get started laying down some soft color. But first I need to wash change my water because it's got a lot of glue in it right now. Okay, so I'm stopping because sometimes I go too far and I get too involved, and when I want to keep it loose, I can go too long and start making it tight. Does that make sense? So I want to keep blocks of color. I will come back and refine things later on. I am going to finish up with her skin tone. I will do more shadowing to delineate between, you know, where her dress ends and she begins, and her arms and all of that. I will do more features around the face and the eyes. What I love about these types of acrylics is that they don't dry as fast. So there's a lot of, you noticed I use my fingers a lot to blend, and that was a lot of fun actually. These types of fluid acrylics, anytime I blend those with them, they dry so much faster. These are really kind of cool. I bought these. One thing I will tell you is if you buy really good paint and you store them properly and tightly, I've had these paints I know for 4 or 5 years. I bought these for some project I did a long time ago, and they are still wonderful. So if you buy quality paints, they will last you. I never try to put too much on my palette at a time. I don't like to waste paint because it is expensive. The fluid acrylics, they have their place too, but they just don't stay, they dry very fast. And for what I'm doing today, I really loved using these. So yeah, I might invest in a few more colors of those. So I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to let me marinate on it a little bit, and then I'm going to start working on the outer edges around her hair, because her hair is going to be the last thing I'm going to do. So I want to work on any background colors that are going to be just right around the edges, but honestly most of this is going to be her hair, because if you remember, she has some really gorgeous full head of hair. And that was actually one of the things that drew me to this piece. Not only her face, I loved her face and the colors and everything, and but I just loved that hair. It was so gorgeous, and it has so many different colors in it. So that's going to be where I spend some of my time playing with color and still trying to keep it loose. So that's where I have to keep stopping myself from time to time to relax, back up, and just let it marinate for a bit. So I will be back. So what happens sometimes is I get excited about getting back to my table and I forget I am filming this. So I did her hair and you didn't see how I did it. But it is with several shades of black with blues mixed with white to just do swirlies on top. I did not make a flat black. I did different shadings. So just to let you know that that's how that turned out. And I am going to proceed from here because I am adding some texture to the background now. Okay, I'm back working on my beautiful girl here. I've already put my finger in my crackle paste. That's pretty much par for the course. So today I've been busy doing all this like work stuff with my teaching and my art. And that's not what makes my soul fly. It's the actual working on the art. So I've got to get some time in today. But I wanted to start working on the outer edges of this. It's really funny when I'm doing these. I will go in different orders. Sometimes I'll do the outlying parts in the background first. Sometimes I jump right into the face. A lot of times lately I find myself jumping right into the face and the figure because if I don't get that right, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the background. And I have been known to mess it up usually I can correct small mistakes, but I have been known to mess it up to the point where I cannot correct it and I just toss it and get out another one. So I start with what is going to be, I see as the most difficult. Get my gray hair off of here. And I always have to go around and pull off little bits of like a paintbrush hair here and there, critter hair from my animals. So I've put this crackle paste. I like this stuff. It gives, let me see, let me put my palette knife where it won't stick to something. It's still got some on it. Let me show you what it looks like. Put the lid on though, because it's kind of creamy. But I smooth it with a palette knife. And I know when I do this, I'm going to have to wait a little bit because it will, as it dries, it will crackle and leave these cracks in it, which is what I want. But if you hasten it with a dryer or a heat tool, it just doesn't do as well. So I figured, well, I'll go ahead and put this down. I used this, what is this, sequin background or whatever? I forget what they call it. But anyway, I have a few bits of this I just use over and over for stenciling and things like this. So I'm putting that one here, and I'm going to get out a couple of other stencils to add different texture, a little bit different texture, different places, before I start putting in my background colors. And so, yep, that's where I'm at right now. So I'm grabbing, these are some of my favorite stencils. They're Tim Holtz. I really like things like this one is very intricate. I don't really love the way that looks to me. There's just not enough holes to really show the crackle part up. If you don't have some big areas, that crackle is not going to show. However, something like this is a little bit too big and open for what I've got left to do on this page. Now I could, say put it, and I might do that, put it here and go off the page with it and just try to keep it right in this area. But I'm looking around. So I don't really want this one. That's too much like what I've just done. The music, I've already got some music on here. And again, I think this is gonna, I don't know if I would like that or not. I like the numbers. I really do, because you can move these all kinds of places. And I love this style of numbers, this old print style. I just got to keep remembering this is wet up here and not let anything touch it. So I might use that. And then I think I might use a section of these gears. I like the texture, the look of that. It's not too busy. It's got some open spaces. And so that might be a really good one actually to put down. So I wanted to get close to show you what the crackle paste looks like, because I knew if I put this above the table, you probably wouldn't be able to see this well. But I can leave it like this white, but what I will go back in and do is kind of a paint, but a thinned paint wash over this so that it soaks down into the cracks and the cracks will show up with the paint and be a little darker. This is the gears that I did on this side of the page, and you see how I spread it out and thinned it out, and where I thinned it out, it gets much finer cracks. Where it's thicker, you're going to get wider cracks. And then this is I love this look of the paste that I put through the little sequin trash. So I think I love this color up here, and she has some of that color down here. So I am going to bring this, but the lighter tones, more like this, up into this area. And I might even bring that into one more area. So I have my rules, rule of threes going on. And then I might take some of this yellow and this yellow, maybe a little bit more this lighter, and add that in around here as well. And perhaps even down here, I haven't quite decided. So it's dry, and I will be getting to my next step very soon. So this is the finished piece that I did. I have gone back in and done a little bit more around her lips. I painted around that area, the three areas that I did the crackle paste in. But yes, you can still see the clock in her cheeks, which I love. I love being able to look closely and see some of the collage papers that I began with. But when you step back, they're not as easy to see. So it just makes mixed media so much more fun and interesting to enjoy and look at when you can see something different each time you look at it. So I hope you enjoyed this very in-depth video, and I plan to do more of these. This is my favorite style of art, so stay tuned. Please hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up, and I love comments. Talk to me about anything or ask any questions, and I hope to see you at the next video. Thanks. Bye.